It is raining here in southern Indiana, so I figured, why not transport myself back to a drier time through the art of photography? This video is essentially the second part to my San Diego travel video that I posted a few weeks ago. This is to share photos from a couple days where we left San Diego and went out to Joshua Tree. Photos in this video were taken with my Fuji GSW690, my Fuji GA645 Professional, and my Fuji Class S. Listing those cameras off is really making me reflect. Am I a Fuji girl? A question for another day. And all of these photos are on Portra 400. So your pretty natural first stop when you're headed out of San Diego toward Joshua Tree is Salvation Mountain. Salvation Mountain is an incredibly beautiful piece of folk art by Leonard Knight. I personally really like religious art, but I don't think it matters if you do or not. This is so worth seeing. This was my first time here and I was really blown away. Absolutely beautiful. It is made of adobe clay and it is suffering a little bit these days, so you can't actually walk up to the top anymore. But I don't think that dampens the experience at all. It's a really significant piece of work, and the setting just makes it so much more grand, just being out in the middle of the desert like it is. We drove right down the road to Slab City so Chris could skate in this converted pool. And then the very next natural stop is the Salton Sea. So we dropped by Bombay Beach. It was hot as hell, and oh my God, I was not prepared for the smell. It is very intense. The smell is not pleasant, but it's also kind of hard for me to say anything bad about it because it is just part of this place and it resonates as part of the story of this place. I highly suggest looking up the Salton Sea and Bombay Beach and reading a little bit about it. But we didn't spend a lot of time there because we really wanted to have plenty of time in Joshua Tree, which we were going to that evening. So there's a lot to see in Bombay Beach, but we checked out the art and the mud and we moved along. I don't really feel like there's a lot I can say about Joshua Tree that hasn't already been said, but it's an incredibly beautiful place. It's huge and it feels very special. I love the huge, soft-looking rock piles. I love the yuccas and the cacti. It's just really a lovely place. We drove around and we stopped here and there. We sort of struggled to find a good place to watch the sunset. We had this idea that, we'd go to Skull Rock. That seemed cool. Maybe we watch the sunset there. But the signage was a little confusing for us. We ended up kind of wandering into a campground and climbing up on some rocks and sitting there for a little bit and watching the sunset. Then we did actually end up finding Skull Rock more around dusk, and that was really pleasant. We took a nice group photo at Skull Rock, and then I took some longish exposures of Skull Rock and around the general area. I did take a few group photos on this trip, which I felt really good about, and makes me feel like it was really worth lugging my tripod around, and hopefully I will take more in the future. Then once it was getting really dark, we started driving back towards town, and we pulled over so I could snap this photo, which is really one of my favorites from that day. I love the silhouettes. I love how dark it is. Those trees are, just obviously so signature to the area and so unique. So it just feels really special to capture them in this way. Then we headed back to our hotel and decided we would get up very, very early the next day to go see sunrise in Joshua Tree. So we got up at 5 a.m. and we drove to Keys View, which is super popular to watch the sunset, but generally watching the sunrise isn't as popular anywhere as watching the sunset because you got to get up hella early to watch the sunrise. So there weren't that many people at Keys View. And I think it was a really great choice. Absolutely loved seeing the sparkling lights of the city and the sun reflect off the Salton Sea early in the morning. I took several photos with my Fuji GSW690, but they sort of flopped. I guess it's not nice to say they flopped. I flopped making the photos. All I had with me for metering on this trip was my cell phone and the light app I use on it. So I couldn't really take careful, averaged readings that one might want for a situation like that. And now that I've made excuses for why my film photos were not that good, I did take some on my Canon 60 Mark II that are pretty nice. So the sunrise was beautiful. We walked one more trail in the park. Then we had super good breakfast burritos. Then we headed down Route 66 towards San Bernardino. I'm not going to say a lot about Route 66. We were only on it for a few hours. We hit the usual spots one may hit upon Route 66. Amboy. Bottle Cap Ranch. Pioneer Cemetery in Duggett. But the real star for us was in San Bernardino. the McDonald's Museum. Very fun, very charming, highly suggested. Then the next day we headed over to LA. Those photos are in my San Diego trip video if you're interested in seeing them. I just wanted to keep both of these short, so I just made 2 small videos. I'd really like to be able to go back to Joshua Tree sometime. I feel like with as huge as it is, the amount that I saw of it was really minuscule. But even with just a pretty small amount of time spent there, it was one of the major highlights of the trip for me. I hope you're starting to see some thoughts of spring wherever you are. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later.